This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. I want to share with you a thought that occurred to me this past Shabbos that I think is very compelling. We know that Sefer Devarim is referred to as Mishnah Torah. It's a repeat of the Torah. In fact, the first Tosfos in Gittin asks, why is a get 12 lines? Because a get is called Sefer Krisos, a book of cutting off. And Tosfos says there are 12 lines of cutting off in the Chumash. Between Bereshis and Shemais there are 4 lines. Between Shemais and Vayikra there are 4 lines. Between Vayikra and Bamidbar there are 4 lines. So there are 12 lines of Krisos in the Torah. Ask Tosfos, what about the 4 lines between Bamidbar and Devarim? Says Tosfos, no, that doesn't count, because Devarim is just Mishnah Torah, just a repetition of what's already in the Torah. Rav Moshe Feinstein asks in the Dibros Moshe, well, what do you mean? There are more mitzvahs in Devarim than in any other sefer. So Rav Moshe very interestingly says, well, had Klal Yisrael not sinned with the Meraglim and with Kairach, all those mitzvahs would have been in the earlier Sfarim, and then in fact, Devarim would have been a complete repetition. Be it as it may, Devarim is called Mishnah Torah. My friend from Montreal, Rabbi Yossi Kunreich, alerted me to the idea then that for all intents and purposes, the Torah ends with Sefer Bamidbar. In other words, Masei, in a sense, is the end of the Torah, because Devarim is just a repetition. So then, it compelled me to try to analyze, how does the Torah end? It would probably be very significant to study the Torah's closing message. And Hashem gave me a great gift. Because the Torah ends where the family of Bnei Gilad, Ben Machir, Ben Menashe, from the family of Yosef, came to Moshe, and they said, you know, Hashem commanded you to give us Eretz Yisrael B'Goyral, and Hashem also commanded you to give the inheritance of Slavchad, our brother, to his daughters. Because we know Slavchad only had daughters and no boys. And the Bnei Slavchad petitioned to Moshe, and Moshe said, well, let me ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Hashem said, yes, indeed, if there are no boys, the girls inherit. But now the family is saying, well, what's going to be if they marry someone from a different tribe? So then the land of Yosef, of Menashe, will go, let's say, they marry someone from Dan to Dan, and let's say they were to die. Now, their land will be inherited by Shevet Dan. So now the Yerusha of Shevet Menashe will be transferred and moved over to Shevet Dan. And there's going to be a diminution in the Chelek of Shevet Menashe. So the Bnei Gilad Ben Menashe, they said, this is going to cause problems, because Shevet Menashe starts off with this amount of land in Eretz Yisrael, and because Slavchad only had daughters, it may be transferred to a different Shevet. So, what are we supposed to do? So Moshe tells Bnei Yisrael, Al Pi Hashem, Kain Mate Bnei Yosef Dan. They're speaking good. Here's what you need to do. Marry anyone who you want. However, you're only allowed to marry someone from your shevet. You can marry anyone, but only someone from your shevet. And this way, this way, a Yerusha will never be transferred to a different shevet. This is the closing message of the Torah. And I thought to myself, is this such a critical message that the Torah has to end off? Okay, the final divine communication from the Almighty to Klal Yisrael is that if a man dies without sons and he only has daughters, they cannot marry out of the Shevet. This is how the Torah ends. And then it occurred to me, it is so beautiful, it's so symmetrical, that the Torah is ending similar to how it begins, and how important it is for us to read this specifically at this time of the year. Namely as follows. The Torah begins, Bereshis bara Elokim. Rashi brings, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Loi haya loi lahaschel ela mechodesh hazeh lachem. Why does the Torah begin that Hashem created the world? Ela kayach ma'asav higid la'amoi laseis lahem nachlas goyim. That if the nations of the world come and they say, Klal Yisrael took away our land from us, they took away Eretz Yisrael, Hashem said, I created the world. I give it to whoever I want, and I take it away when I want. In other words, the reason why the Torah begins Bereshis Bara Elokim is so that we understand and recognize the rightful ownership of Eretz Yisrael. That is the opening message of the Torah. Who are the rightful owners of Eretz Yisrael? But lest you think the Torah says that Eretz Yisrael belongs to Klal Yisrael on a national level. The Torah ends similar to how it begins. Not only is Eretz Yisrael the land of destiny of Klal Yisrael on a national level, it's the land of destiny of Klal Yisrael on a tribal level, on a personal level, on an individual level. And we have to preserve that whatever your personal chelek is in Eretz Yisrael, it does not go to any other tribe. It's not enough to have a national connection to Eretz Yisrael. You have to have a personal connection. You have to do everything you can to preserve that the chelek that Kadosh Baruch Hu gives you and your family, nothing is done to allow it to go to someone else. So the Torah therefore is beginning and ending with the connection of Klal Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael and every individual Yisraeli to Eretz Yisrael. It's pointed out that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's first communication to all the Avos, Abraham, Lech Lecha go to Yisrael, Yitzchak, Lecha, Ki Lecha Zarach Nasati Es Haaretz Hazois, Yaakov, David, Moshe Rabbeinu, David, was about the centrality of Eretz Yisrael. And especially this time of the year, when we're trying to be Mesakein, the Ched HaMeraglim, who had apathy to Eretz Yisrael, who we said over many times from the Maral, that the Galus is not a punishment, it's a natural consequence. You cry over Eretz Yisrael, so that means you're not connected to it, it's not the land of your destiny, so you can't have it. And the way to get it back then is you need to, therefore, desire Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, in Parshas Masei, when it talks about the borders of Eretz Yisrael, it uses a lashon of v'his avisem, perhaps a lashon of ta'ava. You need to, when you speak about the borders of Eretz Yisrael, it has to be desired, it has to be yearned for. So just like the opening message of the Chumash is Kayach mas of Higid la'amei losis la'am nachlas goyim, the rightful ownership of Eretz Yisrael to Klal Yisrael on a national level, it ends off that we have to do whatever we can to preserve it on an individual level, and this is a tikkun for the Ched HaMeraglim, and ultimately our avodah during this time of the year, the Bein HaMetzarim, that we should all be zoicha to return with the coming of the Geula, b'bias Goel Tzedek, b'mher v'yameinu, Amen.
Amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.